Welcome into episode number 3 of Nothing But Hockey. Ben Holden, Paul Caponigri, and thrilled to be joined today by the head coach at the University of Wisconsin, Cappy's old coach in Omaha. I'm sure some stories are going to come out. Mike Hastings. Coach, thanks for joining us. How are things in Madison here with you?
You know what? Good. Sunny. We're undefeated. Those are both good things. And honored to be on your guys' podcast here. Really excited about it.
Well, that means a lot. We both know, we all know each other in different ways. And that's cool. And I've always enjoyed the meetings I've had with you. The last time I saw you in person was in Albany when you went to the Frozen Four. And the last time that we talked, like talk, was in March when you were my tour guide when I went to Bemidji. So I got to say thanks for that, man. And then I'll let Cappy fire away.
You bet. Good to see you guys.
It's great to see you, Coach Hasty. I don't know what to call you anymore.
Coach.
I'm sad we didn't get to see each other last year.
Yeah.
After the excitement of having you in the Big Ten, I'm like, so this year I'm going to definitely try to get that happening and see what the producers and all that. But hopefully the Badgers get some more airtime this year too, right?
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good to catch up with you. We've got obviously a lot of rubber on the road together. Back in the days, I know I'm glad we didn't hand out guns. We handed out sticks because I believe you would have probably pointed the first one at me more than once. And I'm going to say you probably shot with a stick a puck at me that I didn't know about. And you probably never took credit for that. But it's been great to watch you go through your career and what you're doing for the Big Ten and really what both you have done to continue to grow our game. And I'm appreciative of it. And it's really good to see you both.
And I appreciate that. I'm just going to get this story out. Let's do it right off the bat. It's a good one because I remember what happened more. Coach, you'll remember the date because this is the day of when your first child was born. We are playing in Lincoln. Okay, this is, our biggest rival in the league, and we get slapped. I don't remember the score, but it was 5-6-0. We were heading home, 40-minute drive down the road to get bagged or something or whatever the hell was going to happen. And I don't know if you were on the bus at all or not, but we heard the news that your wife was going into labor for your first child, and we got out of it. So it had to be late 99, right? What, your firstborn child, right?
January of 99. And I'll say this, with that, Cap, I'll add to it just a little bit. I actually ended up getting home. And as usual, after a loss, Coach probably wasn't as cheery as he usually was.
It was a bad loss. It wasn't just like a 4-3 loss. It was a bad loss.
We are spanked. And a little story to that too. A guy I grew up with was the head coach in Lincoln, Steve Johnson, who was an All-American, was part of that unbelievable line in college hockey with Herkus Circus. With Tony Herkus and Bobby Joyce. And so, more often than not, we'd get together. I wouldn't ride the bus to Lincoln. Right. Steve wouldn't ride the bus to Omaha. We'd both drive because we'd then hook up downstairs in the coach's office. And I'd like to tell you we were talking mostly about hockey, but every once in a while, if you know Steve Johnson, the dice came out and we'd hang there and just kind of pass the time, as coaches don't like that dead time anyway. But to get to Cap's story, I get home, I go downstairs, and again, this is dating myself and Cap a little bit, but I pop the VHS in and I grab the remote and I'm going forward, backwards, and all of a sudden I can hear a little bit of a rustle. It's probably around 1:32 in the morning, and it's my wife, and she comes downstairs around the corner, and she is in really a sheet. And my wife wouldn't be happy for me to say this, but she gained about 95 pounds with our first one. So she was quite a sight with a sheet wrapped around her saying, "It's time." I panicked a little bit, completely forgot about the video. We had the car packed and ready to go, drove to the hospital and had to walk my wife around a little bit. But there's an article, Tom Chattel, a scribe back in Omaha and in the Lincoln area, and it still hangs on my daughter's wall to this day. It was about that moment. And the article that he put out was, coach who was a little bit burly and upset at losing a hockey game to the greatest rival. The light bulb that came on for me is every one of these guys, Cap included, was somebody's child. And it helped me gain some perspective on we are just coaching a game. And we've got a responsibility as coaches to understand that there's things that are a lot more important than the game of hockey. And so, they were excited because they got off the hook. Coach forgot about
for one day.
Did it come back to get you later, Cappy?
Oh, there's some other one late, like the next year. I think I had one more year there, and there was a long story, one that involved a soccer field in the middle of December. We won't go there. But I mean, you know what? To wrap that whole thing up of playing for coach, like you didn't realize how much it worked for you until you left. You know, it was so hard, but in a good way for you. It prepared you for everything else ahead. It did for me when I went to college. I was able to, step right in college and have a pretty good career right off the hop. And that was from being pushed by coach here in Omaha. So to tie it all together.
I appreciate it, Cap. I will say, as much as you say that might have helped. Today's a new day. It's different. I've tried to adapt to what I would call the student athlete of today.
Mm-hmm.
You were as mentally tough as they came. You did not like losing. You did not like not being successful every day, and you always stuck with it. And it's no different than what you've done now with your career and how successful you were at Ohio State. And a lot of that just has to do with that mental toughness that I think was inbred well before I had an opportunity to coach you.
Maybe a little stubborn. Here and there.
That's where, as much as
a bad thing,
we might have went like that, but really from the time that you left, and as I continued to then get more and more athletes through our program, the appreciation grew for you on you just stayed with it. You didn't run from it. It wasn't something that intimidated you. You actually played your best when the lights were the brightest. And I think that says a lot about you. And, I'd like to have a lot more Paul Caponigris on my team. I'd take them today because they can make a play. They didn't mind standing up for what they believed in, and they definitely played inside the dots. And those are things with the talent and mentality that you had, they'd be successful today.
I appreciate that, Ben. You take over. I don't know what to say after that.
No, that's good stuff. I mean, that's one of the things, Hasty, that I've learned in 20 years of being around the college game is like moments like this, where when you're a player, you don't necessarily like the coach, right? And I know that's part of the psychology, but it's cool to see these moments. I always remember sitting with Red Berenson, and he would talk about how he hadn't seen a player in 5 years, and it was like everything just clicked for player and coach. I mean, I'm sure you got a million stories like that, like you do with Cappy, right?
Yeah, we do. And again, it's kind of the same thing that you try to share with the athletes today is don't take a day for granted because it goes by so fast.
Yeah.
Like the time that Cap and I were together, it wasn't a year, but it sure seemed like about a month. It blew by. And then at times you can lose track of people that, when you start talking about a team, and then all of a sudden the calendar turns and it's a brand new team, and to reconnect and go over some of the things that he might look at and say, hey, you know what, it was really hard. I look at and say, you know what, in today's game, you have to go about it a little bit different way. But the passion for what the orange and black were at that time, and the pride that we still both have in being a part of the Omaha Lancers when we will stay with us forever.
529 wins for you there. Is that still the record, I believe, in the USHL for wins?
Oh boy, I think there's a couple that have gone by that recently. I think you've got Mark Carlson, who's been in Cedar Rapids since PK O'Hanley,
PK.
who cost me a lot of bonus money while he was in Waterloo. He won more often than I liked him to.
Tough barn to play in there.
Yeah, it was, still is, right?
Olympic sheet
Yep.
too. The one rink in that league is kind of was out there a little different.
Yeah, the best thing about the USHL, and I think Cap would probably agree to it as he continues, and you get to see players that
Yep.
and coaches that have gone through that league. Boy, it'll humble you in a hurry as a player, as a coach. And if you're in it long enough, I think it's a great, really a great area to prove yourself as a coach, because what you do is you better be able to adapt, you better be able to change, because if you don't, you're not going to get beat, you're going to get embarrassed. So to have your teams prepared and make sure that you're doing what you need to do on the recruiting front. I just think it's one of the best leagues in the world.
In terms of your team, you guys get going against Omaha with an exhibition game back in your old stomping grounds the first weekend of October. Are you guys fully are you engaged? Everything's going, everything's like in season at this point. Where are you at with the club?
Starting this last Monday, when we were able to go to our 20 hours per week, we've gotten after it this last week a little bit. Now, it's also a real heavy time for recruiting for our staff and our program. And so they've probably got a little too much a coach. I think they're dying for those assistant coaches to come back around and maybe hear it from a different voice.
Right.
So we'll get into that after this weekend. But yeah, we have been. Prior to that, we were going for the 4 hours a week. And so you'd get a little sprinkle, and that would probably be more towards Cap's side. He'd like the 4 hours than the 20 hours as most players do. It's nice right now because we're finally catching up with football, basketball, some other sports. You know, it used to be we'd get our first practice the day before you went and played a game. And so now we're able, for health purposes, to be able to train the guys and get them up to speed a little bit sooner than just 24 hours before you play a game. And hopefully that'll translate to less injuries and guys being more prepared for the start of the season.
I got to ask, you mentioned this a couple times already, the changing in the player. And I think we talked about it earlier in the week, the relationships with the players. There's so much turnover now. Like if you have less than 10 guys coming in a year, it's almost a miracle at this point, just because of all the different things. Where do you find that the hardest to adapt to, in terms of, you want to be close to these players, but a lot of them are new, and then you got other guys. I guess that's one of the big changes in college hockey.
It is, and I'm still adapting, Cap. I think everybody is, but I can only speak from my experiences. And going into last year, we had 4 transfers and 8 freshmen, and this year we have 8 freshmen and 4 transfers. So going back to your idea of what I think is important for us, it's building those relationships as soon as you can. We're fortunate here at Wisconsin. They come in for an 8-week time frame to train, to get a head start on their academics, and it's not in a real competitive environment based upon, we're not out making lineups and guys being scratched and guys being in and out of the lineup. It's more of what I had said earlier in the training and the academics. So building those relationships and spending as much time with those athletes, with our staff as we can, is really important. And I think it's just going to continue in the importance as we go on. Hopefully we'll be in a position that you understand our games change dramatically. There's going to be an open window. We are a free agency. When you look at the National Hockey League, they deal with contracts, right? Sign a player to a 3 or a 4 year, or some of the people that are, a Gensel that's signing a 7 or an 8 year deal, they know where they're going to be. They know they're going to be coming back. We don't have that. We've got free agency with the transfer portal every single year. And so I think having those conversations with those players immediately and identifying and saying, hey, it's okay. Let's go about this together. Let's see how it goes. And we'll try and take it in a daily, a weekly, a monthly. and build the relationship and the communication lines as much as you can, and try to go at it together, and really just go on the journey within a season. And then, as I heard a football coach say on Twitter the other day, I'm sure at the end of the year, when it opens up again, we'll be hearing from advisors and coaches and families and other players. And hopefully we've done a good enough job building those relationships that players are going to continue to want to be in our program.
Your Badgers, I'm assuming we're going to try to get this out to the fans in Madison. You said eight freshmen and 4 transfers. Talk about a few of the guys you're excited. I mean, I'm sure you're excited about them all. But if you can kind of maybe introduce a couple of the guys and give us a little glimpse into what we're going to hope to see from some of these new guys.
Yeah, from our transfers, we've got 4 of them. And 3 of them are up front. Kyle Kukkonen, Ryan Mosley have come in and really, I was able to, when I was in the old CCHA, and previously the new WCHA, competed from the bench side against those 2 athletes. Tremendous amount of respect for them because of what they bring on their daily basis. Mosley, over the time that he had playing at Michigan Tech and playing for Joe Shawn, we've got a lot of respect for it. He just consistently put a puck in the net. We're looking for him to still do the same thing for us. He's a quiet guy. He just comes in and does his work. Kukkonen's a little bit different makeup. He's once you turn him on, you're looking for the off button as far as the volume, because he likes to wear it out a little bit. And I love the energy that he brings. So they're a really good ding and dong as far as the human beings on what they bring in to a locker room. But Kukkonen, draft pick with Anaheim, a guy that I think is going to, get back hopefully to his freshman status as far as scoring goals. He went through a broken leg a year ago, and has really come in and shown himself very, very well so far. Cody Laskowski and the other one, Tommy Scarfoni, they're 2 guys that came from RIT, a winning environment. Willie does a great job at preparing his players, and those guys have came in and hit the ground running. Scarfone is confident in his play, but does it in a matter of, I'll show you, I'm not going to tell you. And Laskowski is a guy that I think can play both ends of the rink. He's a guy that'll see some power play time, some penalty kill time. Is a guy that hopefully will fill some of the void for us offensively. And those are the 4 guys that have came in as transfers.
Mike, when you took over, obviously there was turnover. That's natural in any program. Guys leave, especially as we've talked with the portal and all that stuff. But there's 3 guys that have been around your program for a long time. They're your captains, Daniel Latch, Owen Lindmark, and Anthony Kerr. And I remember when Kerr was a freshman and Mark Osiki loved this guy, man. Mark would talk him up. He really thought he was going to be a good player. So on the other side, those veteran guys, talk about those guys. And what do you like so much about what they add to your hockey club?
Great group for us. If you would have been able to see the tallies for the guys' votes, both Owen and Anthony were neck and neck. And it's because they've earned the respect of their teammates, because they not only bring the preparation that they do day to day, they take care of their own business, but they're kind enough human beings and caring enough that they've looked out for others, whether it's the transfers that have come in, whether it's the freshmen when they remember what they were at our program and what it was for them to be freshmen, and the things that they want to have those guys come in and feel about from a leadership group. Also, Owen Lindmark's been everything for us. A year ago came in, and he's gone through a lot of major injuries, double hip surgery. He's been in and out of the lineup. Last year came in and had his best season. Was a little bit of a widget for us. He power play, penalty kill, even strength. He's really good on the dot. And his guy that comes into the rink every day with a smile. Anthony Kerr, sometimes he's the hammer, sometimes he's the nail. He's got a bite to him. I can see why Ozzy loved what he loved about him, because, and again, not a guy that's real boisterous, but a guy that'll run you over and pick you up and dust you off in a practice. But when you're playing against our team, you need to know where he's at on the rink all the time. And then the quiet one, Daniel Latch, his progression from first year to where he's at now, Pittsburgh Penguin draft, they're really excited about him.
Mhm.
I think they would have been fine signing him this last year and bringing him into the organization. They do such a good job, Tom Kostopoulos and Butts. They just really do a good job at developing their players. And he said, "Hey, you know what? I'd like to stay, get my degree." They supported that. And he's playing at a level now that we're going to lean on from day one. He's actually paired with one of our freshmen, Logan Hensler.
Wow.
And those guys, example setters, they care about each other, but they care more about others. And I'm really excited about what our leadership group's going to be. It won't just be those three. We've got other guys in that locker room that won't be wearing a letter, but will still definitely play part of our leadership group. But I'm excited in the hands that we're in.
You just named him. The one freshman I think that the fans are going to be most excited to see that they don't know about yet, but you just said his name, Logan Hensler, who's a possible top 10 pick in the NHL draft. We got to speak about him. Just kind of talk about where you see his game and what the fans, I think, are going to be excited to see in Madison.
Well, there's a lot you like about him. One, he's 17, 18 throughout this year, so he's coming in and it is his draft year. 6'2", he's close to 200 pounds. Probably plays a little bit more of a skill game at that length. Great vision. His growth factor is changing on a weekly basis. He comes into the rink every day with a smile on his face, and again with Latchy being his partner, he's fit right in. And when you pull the jersey over his shoulders and you get out for practice, he doesn't play like he's 17. He moves extremely well. He's got great vision, as I already mentioned, deception to his game. He's got a natural vision to get up into the play and to be that second and third layer that you need in today's game. Excited about it because as a young guy coming into a program, he's going to be thrown over the boards and thrown right into the deep water. And when he makes a mistake, he's going to be put over the boards again. Really excited about it, of what the package is of the hockey player and the human being. His parents have done a great job. The guys at the national program have done a great job at preparing him for this opportunity, and we're excited about him, and I think the fans should be too.
Don't kill the messenger, but you got to replace your goalie. And I know you may not want to tip your hand, but what do you share with us in terms of where you're at in terms of who's going to be in that crease with Kyle McClellan gone this year?
I hope it's crowded, based upon the guys that we've got coming in, and I'll start with the returner, William Graham. You look at his numbers when McClellan wasn't in the net.
Yeah.
It wasn't 870, it wasn't 900, it wasn't 920, it was around 950.
Wow.
So when he had his number called, he did his job. Attention to detail, work ethic, really and he's long. He's 6'4", he's 200 plus. He's done a really good job at getting himself in elite shape. I think he's looking at this as an opportunity with Mac leaving for him to grab the net.
Yeah.
We wanted to bring somebody in who was really important for us, to compete. And that's what Tommy Scarfoni has done. And he's come in and hasn't missed a beat. He stepped right in, and I think there's going to be a battle there. And then, you look at Anton Castro, he's done a good job throughout his career at being a starter, and played for a very successful program in Fargo. So I'm excited about the battle that's happening there right now.
What do you think now, Coach? You're coming in your second year in the Big Ten. You spent a ton of time in the other league. If you could pinpoint one thing or a couple things, the biggest difference now that you've spent a year in the Big Ten as opposed to where you were previously?
Well, and you guys, you've been around it, and the top end, you can't take a night off, and that's not something that's against the CCHA. It's just the depth, because we only have 7 teams in our league and the programs that we're talking about. And, they don't go into a rebuild, they go into a reload. And as I said earlier, if you're not really good, you're going to get embarrassed. Case in point, last year, we had a really good regular season. We get bounced in the first round by a very well-coached, a very good Ohio State Buckeye team. And they end our run in the playoffs at a short distance. And so to me, there's a lot of talent. There's draft picks. The style of play, I like the way it's officiated. I think it's a little tighter than maybe what it was in the CCHA. And it mirrors a little bit more of maybe what might be in the National Hockey League, and what these guys are trying to be prepared for. But at any level, it's difficult to be successful. But the Big Ten, I'm very impressed with what you have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to be successful.
Was there anything that surprised you, I guess, coming into a big school, the big conference, the big money, all that stuff? Some expectations there. I think you actually brought them, because I think things had kind of started, dipping a little bit with the Badger program. Anything surprised you last year?
The biggest thing for me is just, the constant grind. Once you get into league play, you can't take your foot off the gas. You lose a guy at a really important time, that can cost you a couple of weekends, because there's really no sunshine on the other end when Monday comes around, because it's another meat grinder you're going to be going through. That's been the biggest piece, and the guys are so well coached. I saw that in the CCHA too. There's a lot of good college coaches. And you just better be prepared, because if you're not, you're not going to lose one. You're going to get swept. And so I think iron sharpens iron, and that's definitely what happens in the Big Ten on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I want to go back to some of your guys. Big Michigan guy here in terms of where I'm from, not the University of Michigan, but big Michigan guy. You got 3 guys on your team from the state I live in, and one of them's from the town I live in, South Lyon. Zach Schultz, I believe I'm saying that name right. Gavin Morrissey and Adam Pietila, that family. I mean, I don't know how many Pietilas are in that family. Where do those guys fit in amongst your club, Mike?
You know what? I'm glad you brought those guys up. We need not only an influx of freshmen to come in and make an impact, but as you know, for sustainability, you need guys that have come in and been here before to take steps while they're in your program. And, Stolze is a guy that I think took a tremendous step from his freshman to where he's at today. He had a great 10, 12 days at the World Junior Showcase. I think he's put himself back into the mix for the World Juniors for this upcoming season.
Cool.
Historically, he's done a really good job at making sure his leadership qualities are well chronicled on what he did at the national program, and at the World under 18s. But just to see him morph his body into going from being in good shape to being in great shape. And he's really started to take a step. I'm really excited about what I think his role can be in our club this year. I think it's a shutdown, bottom 3-4 guy that is going to eat a lot of minutes, as well as continuing to build your culture. Gavin Morrissey has been fantastic so far. He's been a winner going all the way back to when he was in Austin. Played in Fargo last year when they won a championship. Will be, I think, an all situation type player as a freshman. I think he'll fit on a power play. I think he'll kill some penalties for us. His last 2 years, he's been over 60% from the dish on the dot, and is a guy that can play in the middle or play in the walls. So I think he's going to have an impact immediately. And then when you look at Pietila, and again, I'm hoping we get more, because I'm tired of playing against them or coaching against them, because they've been a thorn in my side for a long period of time. It's nice to finally have one on our roster, and he'll find his way. In an outstanding season in Youngstown, and Moto does a great job at preparing his players. and he's come in great shape, and we look forward to him making an impact immediately.
I got to ask about this because it's just the new world we're in, with NIL now, with the lawsuit is gonna finally get figured out in terms of the universities paying their student athletes, and where hockey sits in that, who knows right now. But do you sit with the coaches and talk about that? Do you sit with administration, the athletic, just as much as you can, try to give some sense of what you're dealing with? Because I'm sure it's literally learning on the fly with almost all of it.
I know Chris McIntosh, our AD, and Jason King, my associate AD.
Did he know what he was getting into?
Hey, when that phone goes and they see it's me again, I'm worried about what they're thinking.
Sure.
We're trying to get information, just like you guys are. Everybody out there, the football program and Coach Fickle and Coach Guard and everybody here, we're all looking for answers. And we're not the ones that get to provide them, because we need the information first. And the decisions need to be made. So, yep, we're talking to them. I'm also talking to our peer group, whether it's in the Big Ten or outside of it, just to try and figure out what next steps are going to be. And, it's ever changing. What I've said this way, the transfer portal, it's not going away.
No.
NIL, it's not going away. So to sit and belabor the point that, boy, I like this, I don't like that, you deal with it. Find your best version of yourself at your program and do what you can with it to mostly benefit the student athletes and your program. And so trying to talk to as many people as you can without it taking away from what we're doing right now, which is our dailies. But I think there will be some clarity here within the next few weeks, hopefully, once the decision comes down on the settlement and the judge makes the decision on what direction they're going, so that we can move accordingly.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about, I guess, the players. I mean, it's just different with NIL and look, agents, all that. They're agents now. You don't have to call them family advisors anymore, because we're in a world where it's a business to an extent. I know you can't talk a lot about it, but what are the conversations that you've had to have with players, or is it mostly with agents in that part of the game?
I think we're just, as a sport, when I mentioned earlier, I talked to Coach Fickle, talked to Coach Guard. Football and basketball are at a different place than
stratosphere.
Right? Yeah. And so to try and get ahead of that, talk to them about their experiences, and just through the transfer portal towards the end of last year, before it was closing, started to see it coming a little bit more than what I had witnessed previously. Throughout the summer, getting into the recruiting piece, and then now going forward, it's becoming more and more prevalent, those conversations. And so who are you talking to? Yep, you're talking to the advisors. And I'll use Chris McIntosh's, if he's okay with that, my AD, his word was, or his statement was, you know what, sometimes when you're in the NIL world, you're chasing a ghost. And what I mean by that is, an advisor tells you, hey, team A, B, C, and D, one's given 10, one's given 20, one's given 30. You feel like it's Monty Hall and it's, let's make a deal. Are you willing to go 50? And it's starting to become more the norm. And I think then you just got to have honest conversations with the advisors, with the families, and find out what is most important to them. I hope we do not become a program that the most important piece is what we're going to be shelling out from the idea of what they're going to get well beyond their full scholarship, their Alston money, their full cost of attendance, the nutrition, the mental health.
Man, where was this 20 years ago?
They're put in a position to succeed and to develop. And so I understand it's going to be a part of us going forward. We're going to manage that in the way that we feel is best for our program. It's here to stay. But again, I think it's having the open and honest conversations with the families on how important that is. And I just think we're going to continue to develop that as we go through it. The experience of, hey, this is the way we're going to attack it. You hope that that's the best way for your team that year. But I do believe you are going to have to be flexible and have the ability to adapt to whatever comes down the road, because what is today a fact, tomorrow can be completely different. And I think the more you're prepared for that, the more prepared you are to roll with the punches.
I got one last one, and then I'm going to let Mr. Holden have a little more fun with you. With the Big Ten, obviously I would love an 8th team. I would love a 12th team. I think there's a lot of programs out there that could add hockey. I think Nebraska is a ridiculous no-brainer. I don't know what the whole story is.
West Coast.
I mean, Iowa's got a brand new rink, which is, all that. But I don't love the playoff format. And you were just in it for the first time. And you didn't really get to experience how it's spread out so much. 3 weekends. I know there's a lot of factors in that. I know if you were in charge, like if you could change anything from your experience, just as a natural, what you would like to see better, what would you like to see out of in the Big Ten format?
I'm a big believer in protecting your best teams when you get to the playoffs. Again, my experience, Cap, with you and in the USHL, you play an entire season to try and get that 1 seed, to play at home, be in your own building, those things. And once we get to that time of the year, if there's one thing, Cap, as you would have said back in the USHL, and our guys definitely do right now, when you're into March and you tell them you're going to have a week off and it's going to be 8 practices, a couple of days off mixed in there, and then play a 1-game winner take all. I don't know if we're protecting our best team. And so that's my own opinion. And I think, like what you said, we're communicating on a consistent basis. One, the administration here is fantastic about talking about where we're at and where we want to be. So that happens. I know one of the most important pieces that we talk about year in and year out in the Big Ten meetings is our playoff setup. And so expansion is something we discuss. We're continuing on a yearly basis at trying to make sure that that's something that we continue to tinker with and try and make sure that it's as good as it can be. And until we find an 8th team or we change that playoff format, I think it's going to be consistent. And I do think it's important for us to continue to grow as a league.
I want SC and UCLA in. I mean, just for prestige, man. I mean, that would be awesome, right?
West Coast trip.
But let's be honest, fellas, it didn't bum me out. And did you guys think we'd see at our time that Vegas would have an NHL team?
No.
An NFL team?
No.
Right?
They're going to have Major League Baseball in a couple of years.
Absolutely. And I'll also tell you the idea, you see what ASU has done.
Yep.
And going in there playing when I was in the CCHA and Coach Powers and what they're doing there and being absorbed now by the NCHC.
Yep.
There are, as Cap said, when you look at the rink in Iowa, it's gorgeous. And you start talking about, if you've ever been on Lincoln's campus, with the Lincoln Stars being there and the support that they have in that community for amateur sports, if that's where we're still at. I just think it as Cap says, it's a little bit of a no-brainer. So we've got to continue to forge forward and grow as much as we can and take care of what we have, but have an eye on the future also, because I think it's our sport's a special sport. For those that get to watch it on TV, I understand it, but go watch one live, because when you watch it, it's exciting.
Go to the Kohl Center when Minnesota's in town.
Yeah. Go
to that and see if you're going to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, there was, last year, Cap, was great. We were spoiled a little bit when we played Michigan here twice. We had out, and Minnesota was sold out. When you get 15-5 in a building, and I don't care if you're at home or you're on the road, because I'll say this. I've gone into Yost when it was hopping. You go into Mariucci, you go into these buildings, and you want to talk about preparing an athlete for what they're going to be chewing on down the road when they're playing in the National Hockey League. I think those venues can mirror that.
No doubt.
Ben, one last one, and then it's your show.
It's all good, man. Go ahead.
I gotta ask about the whole CHL thing.
Yeah.
Where that's going to lead. Hey, I'm not going to be able to bother you about this stuff again. So I'm getting it all in. What are your thoughts? Do you feel like it's inevitable? I think it should be at this point. If I think at this point now, college athletes are getting paid more money than those guys playing in the OHL, WHL. What do you see? Is it next year? I mean, you're not a prognosticator, but you've talked to a lot of people.
I don't think it's if, it's when.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's interesting because what's driving all this? It's lawsuits, so and try and predict that. I just think opportunity. Our sport, as I mentioned earlier, whether it's in the Big Ten, or the more the merrier. Hey, if we can continue to grow our footprint, look at what USA Hockey was 15 years ago and what it is today. When you guys have to be excited. I'm excited about the Four Nations tournament that they're having, and getting back into the Olympics and the World Cup hockey, and just that, because you're seeing the best in the world show themselves and fly the flag of their country. For us to diminish opportunity, that's not what we're about. And so I think it's going to grow. I don't know where it's going to end up, other than I think it's going to grow our pool.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of players. You're going to need more teams, in my opinion.
Yep.
Hopefully, right? And we'll see. I think it affects everybody. You've got the collective bargaining agreement that will have to be discussed, because they've got an agreement with the CHL and what their draft picks can do. We've got an understanding of what happens when draft picks come to us. They're on different plates. And so that's going to have to get figured out. And then just the idea of the player pool, 16 to 20 in CHL, obviously college, we've got as one of the young guys, Logan Hensler at 17, and you've got other guys at 24, 25. So for us to grow that pool, I'm not against it. Not at all. It's just a matter of how we're going to be able to put that within the confines of
26 guys, of finding 20. So you only have 26 roster spots starting next year.
Yeah, and you know what? I wish you could go to the library and plug a book out and say, "This is how you're going to do it." It's just not going to be that way, fellas. And you guys have been as adaptable as you've had to be in our sport. We're going to be no different. Again, it's trying to stay informed, and then making sure that you understand changes are coming, and prepare for that as best you can.
The only thing that's guaranteed is change, right? I mean, it's the way the world is, it seems like. I'm not going to ask you about expectations or any of that, because I know what you guys expect to win. You came in last year and punched everyone in the mouth in the first year with Wisconsin and brought them back to relevance. So I kind of want to go a little different direction here to kind of close out with you and have a little rapid fire with you. You cool with that?
Sure. Absolutely.
All right. So what is Crookston, Minnesota best known for? Your hometown, of course.
Sugar beets. They
Sugar
got the
beets.
sugar beet plant. I'm also going to tell you and here's the flip side of that. I think there's a Bigfoot museum up there too. So
Really?
yeah. So it's a little bit more of the Red River Valley and the agriculture, but we've got some animals up there too.
All right. Who was it that first said to you, you should try coaching?
Oh boy, I'll give credit to Craig Dahl at St. Cloud. I asked Craig, I didn't want to lose. I got injured. I didn't want to lose my scholarship. And he said, okay, we're okay with that, but you've got to give something back. And so one of the more difficult times in my entire life, I went from being in the locker room to being outside the locker room. And as you guys know, sometimes that's really good and sometimes it's not so much. So I went from driving to the bars with the players to being asked by the coaches who were at the bars the next day. So Craig really, I owe a lot to Craig Dahl for giving me my first opportunity as a coach.
So is Craig the man, the person that you took the most from in terms of becoming a coach, or are there other guys in that group, Hasty?
Oh boy, I've been fortunate. At that time, it was survival. As I went through, Mike Genzel gave me my first junior job, and it was an assistant in the USHL.
Yep.
And so as I went through that, I was able to see Mike and what he did in the USHL and all the guys that had came before me. I played for Frank Serratori,
Right.
who we all know.
Oh boy.
We need Frank to keep coaching.
We do.
Because we need those Friday and Saturday press conferences after a tough weekend to be able to put things back in perspective.
Yeah.
And I need him to keep being a Viking fan. He's probably pretty happy at this time. And then I was spoiled through my coaching career to be around some of the best in the business. Dean Blaze, Don Lucia.
Yep.
And be around those guys and even some guys earlier than that here at this university. Jeff Sauer was great to me in my time with USA Hockey. So had a lot of guys that I really stole different things from, even some of the things from Herb Brooks playing for him when I was at St. Cloud. So
right.
I've been fortunate to be around a lot of really good hockey people.
That's awesome. I remember we talked about that in Loveland. I think we talked when you went against Mott's, and it was you in Minnesota. And of course, your guys came out on top that year.
It was Mott's has been, and again, now I'll go to the flip side.
Yeah.
What a peer group I've been able to grow up with.
Yeah.
Bobby was in the USHL, and then Tommy Serratori, we worked together at St. Cloud State. And Guy Godowski takes Keith Fisher from me when I was in the USHL, and they've been together now for 19 years.
Right.
The guys that came before us, Surdy, Wooger, all those guys, Gino Gasparini, they put their arms around us young guys and allowed us to grow up right in front of them. So very thankful for that.
All right, a couple more here. I'm going to learn a lot about you here. I know a lot about you. I don't know everything, obviously. So we see players, their AirPods are going, or some guys are old school with wires pregame. If you had to, or maybe you do you have a playlist? Do you listen to music? Is that any part of your pregame ritual as a coach?
I'll catch some music on the way in from if I happen to go home that day. That to me is it's kind of my time. I get a list. I'm probably about 25 minutes away from the rink.
Okay.
So I'll do that. I will tell you, depending on what playlist is rolling in our locker room. Sometimes we'll leave the door open and sometimes we'll
understood. I understand completely.
I'm trying to keep up, and I will tell you, if I can stay in this long enough, I am starting to hear some things that I used to enjoy and still do. They're making a little bit of a comeback. So sometimes I stay out of the way and sometimes I participate.
Are you a country guy?
Yeah, there you go.
Getting there a little bit.
You weren't. A little Metallica maybe or something.
You know what? A little Van Morrison.
Okay.
I like. I'm a Beatles guy.
Okay.
There's some different things, and like I said, I'm being introduced to new genres on a consistent basis.
Do you ever hear your players playing any of the music you like, or are they just playing? Do you do?
Absolutely. And I walk in immediately and I say, whose is this? Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you. If you need a vote on if it's going to continue, please
You're in charge now.
I'm in.
You're the music guy.
I stay out of that, fellas. I have to. It's just that's their world, not mine.
All right. Last question for me, and then we'll wrap up with a closing thought. The job consumes you. I've seen it. I rode with Quinny on buses for 2 years, and that's how I got to know you, through him, and just saw the way it consumed coaches and been around coaches. What do you do, or what are some things that you like to do when you can take a break and get away from the game?
Well, first and foremost, family time.
Yeah.
Because I've stolen, as most coaches have,
Mm-hmm.
their journey to try and build a career, the ones that pay the greatest price is your family.
Yep.
And so to try and reconnect with family as much as possible. And that might be in some of these other avenues. It's whether it's a family trip, a little bit of a vacation. My wife and my daughter just got back from Denver as they went out and went to a concert out in Denver. And so they're spending a little bit of time here before the season kicks off.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know what, I like to get on a golf course and put the phone away for 4 hours, enjoy a little bit of time that way, because it's, you get to be with 2, 3, 4 people and enjoy some time that way and connect. And then the one thing I'm just starting to dip my toes in, Todd Knott's a real big fisherman. He's got his own boat. I'm in not the land of 10,000 lakes anymore in Minnesota, but I have to tell you, Wisconsin's not too far behind.
Right.
I've been blessed with a couple of individuals that have taken me out muskie fishing.
Cool.
Caught my first muskie. That was enjoyable. And so do a little bit of fishing, but really probably in that order: a little bit of family, a little bit of golf, and dabble in the fishing a little bit. It's quiet time. It's putting the phone down and enjoying really what is most important: the family and the environment that we're in right here. If I can't enjoy where I'm at, I probably should stop what I'm doing. And I don't want to do that, because I'm blessed to have the opportunity to be here at Wisconsin, and it's a beautiful place, so we might as well enjoy it.
Awesome. Well said. Cappy, I'll let you closing thought, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
I don't know. I mean, it's just it's been great having you, kind of hearing a little more about everything you've gone through. Like you said, time goes fast. I mean, I can remember so many things from 1998, 99, 2000. The players. It's funny. We had we got a chat together from our 98 Clark Cup championship team. I think we kind of messaged a little bit about that. And we were all on the text chain together on WhatsApp. And it's just kind of cool to have little memories there. And those guys, I got to see Chris Paradise in Minneapolis at the Frozen Four, James Armstrong. I'm just going to start naming guys, and you're going to start giggling, because, I mean, how many guys do you know or remember? You've had so many players. But it's just, I love the fact that things have kind of come full circle, and we get to do this type of stuff. And hopefully, guys like me and Ben will call a couple of your games and get to see it in person this year.
It's so fantastic from the coaching side of it to be able to all of a sudden cross that line from being a coach to being a friend. And being prideful in watching you grow and do what you're doing. And, every once in a while I'll cross paths with the guys that you're talking about. Dice can still go bar down better than anybody I've ever watched. And you wrote history together. And I
you got a ring with certain guys that you'll always remember a little. Sadly, you remember them a little. Those championship teams, you remember a little more. I tell guys all the time, you're going to have fun in college and wherever, but you're going to remember if you can win a championship way more, a little bit more.
It binds you forever. Brothers walk together. And
Yep.
Now the other piece of that is just being able to see as you guys continue to grow and do what you're doing. I'm excited about, being able to run into you guys a little bit more. But it is a special journey. We might as well, like I said, there's a lot of work that you put into it. You might as well enjoy it. And like I said, blessed to be where I'm at. I look forward to seeing you guys real soon. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to come onto your podcast. And I look forward to enjoying a little bit more hockey with you guys down the road.
Same here, Hasty. Is this the first time a former player has interviewed you?
Yeah, you know what? And I will say this. I got to say one more thing. Yes, Cap, we've talked before. And I do have a little policy, because I've gone through a lot of teams, a lot of players. And again, when we talk about some things that you really feel good about, I also look back at some things that, you know, if you put up with me for 3 years the way that you did, I do have a policy. You won't pay for a beer. You won't pay for a cup
Ooh.
of coffee. You won't pay for a meal, because if you could do that, you at least deserve some payback from the guy that put you through what he put you through. So
Madison.
I look forward to paying back. We just got to get you to town, and we'll go out and enjoy a little bit of what Madison is.
I got to get a Spotted Cow, man. That beer is, I'm not a big beer drinker, but Spotted Cow, fantastic.
You know what? It's part of the fiber here in this state, and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I had a few in the fridge.
I love it.
Nice. Well, it all gets going for the Badgers for real on the 11th of October. You got Lindenwood coming in. Mike, thanks for this. We really appreciate it. I've always enjoyed our friendship, and thanks so much for coming on our show. We'll see you down the road.
Appreciate it. Thanks for doing what you guys do, and keep crushing it. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Hasty. Appreciate it, man.